Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Friends from Film School. I'm Luke Pilgrim.
I'm Brad Kennedy.
I'm Ellis Treese.
And today we have a very special guest, a jack of all trades, some might say. His name is Woody Brown. He's a musician, a songwriter, a video content creator, and a partner at the Rhodes Group Insurance Agency. Woody, welcome to Friends from Film School.
Thanks, man. If anybody didn't get excited, I'm sure they got extremely excited by the fact that I'm an insurance agent. So now they're like really they're taking new to the screen.
I started with the musician, songwriter, insurance agent.
Yeah. Hey, he's a partner at an insurance agency. They're like
saving the best for last.
Click.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bury the lead, you know.
Oh, it's all good, dude.
So Woody, obviously we've known each other. Dude, I was thinking last night, 17 years maybe?
Oh gosh, man. Like that's
Isn't that what you said on Woody's podcast?
Yeah.
Y'all have known each other long enough to
have
a team driver or something.
Yeah. Our love child would be getting close to graduating high school.
I know. Too bad. Yeah, not during the pandemic, unfortunately, but
Oof.
I mean, they graduate and they just can't walk.
They don't get to walk. Yeah.
Which is like my brother's dream come true.
Because he doesn't want to walk.
Oh man. When he got his PhD, he was arguing with like my parents still, he's like a grown man. He's like, I don't want to go. You guys don't even worry about it. We can just have like a dinner. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? You're getting a PhD. You have to be there. He's like,
you're a doctor.
Yeah. I mean,
I think my brother's the same way. He graduates this semester, and I think secretly, or at least it was for a while, and maybe now he cares a little bit more. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's for Ethan to decide. I won't decide for him, but I think secretly he's like, I don't have to walk. I don't have to get to the ceremony. It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like, I feel like that's a common theme here because Ellis, your brother, is also super antisocial.
Yeah, I didn't want to walk either, but everyone I know made me walk. So I was like, whatever, I guess I'll go.
I was there to support you, bro.
You were. Dude, my friend showed up literally 30 seconds before my name got called.
Dude, let me ask you guys this, since we're all four graduates of North Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about you, and just being graduates in general, like of college, right whenever you were about to like go, did you have like a small mini panic that they were like going to not call your name, or like, oh, they forgot something and you didn't pay your parking fee or whatever?
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I mean, like literally.
I don't know if I had that.
Yeah. When they called my name, I was kind of like, oh,
yeah.
Thank goodness.
My thing was always like, am I going to shake with the right hand? Like, even though I'm left-handed and I know you shake with the right hand, I'm like, would I just mess it up? I'm like, oh, here you go. And then throw out my left hand and they're like, what? This guy shouldn't get a degree. He doesn't know how to shake hands.
Dude, just like hearing you talk about shaking hands, I have this uncomfortable feeling from all of this pandemic stuff. I mean, do you think that's going to be the future? Are we ever going to go back to normal, or are we going to have something
elbow bumps from here on out, dude?
Yeah.
Or just subconsciously, I feel like I watch a TV show or a movie, people are hugging and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, too close.
Yeah. I had that same reaction.
Hugs at family gatherings, forget about it now, dude.
Well, your family doesn't hug, Ellis.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like a guy like chaperoning like a middle school dance. I'm like, let me see a little daylight between you guys.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think there's definitely going to be a new normal, but I think in a way, like some things are kind of going to go back to the way they are. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel this, but I think as soon as they give sort of like an all clear, but there's, I say as soon as they give an all clear, if they give an all clear and there's like medicine to help, then everyone's just going to be like, finally I can go out,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's going to be, people are going to be like, either there's going to be some people who are really scared to go out, and then the people who are like, I've got to go to the bar, or I've got to go to see this comedy show or this like, concert or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they're just losing their minds being, pinned up for so long.
But I feel like the thing is like you said, the comedy shows or concerts or anything like that, it's like waiting to see who's going to be the first one in like the venue or the entertainer, who's going to be like, okay, let's do it. Now's the time.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, dude, if we were still traveling musicians, for example, and we were, you know, like gigantic status, can you imagine like being the one that's like, yeah, man, we're gonna have our show, and then something goes wrong, and then now your name is attached to that.
Yeah.
You know, like
you'd be ruined.
yeah, man.
Yeah, I think that's the fear for probably most of these big acts. And like, if you listen to any of the like Joe Rogan podcasts and all that stuff, that's what they're talking about. They're like, they're saying, you know, they're like, it's going to be 2021 before we can do a show again. Or, you know, some people are like 2022 or crazy things like that, you know, where it's like, they just don't know when it'll be safe for literally thousands of people to, you know, get together again.
It's crazy, man.
So Woody, let's talk about you.
Okay. I'm down.
I was thinking it would be cool if you just kind of gave us some background, you know, like what you do, like how you got to where you're at. I think for one, you have a really cool story because you're a creative, but you have like a quote unquote real job, but you did that like on your own terms. And you also still, I don't think you're like yearning for any kind of creative freedom. I feel like you're still creating constantly. So it's like, I think that's inspiring for like younger people, and especially someone who's like a young creative and they're like, everyone's telling them they need to get a real job, whatever. Yeah. And obviously you went through that being a musician. You know, both of us had that similar path, and there's so many different paths you can take. Tell us tell us your background a little bit and like how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, man. So let's see. I mean, growing up, I don't know how far back you want to go, but I knew that I wanted to be a musician when I went into my friend had this older sister and she had Beatles posters just splattered on her walls. And one day I was like, man, who are these guys? You know? And his older sister was like, you've never heard of the Beatles? And I'm like, I don't know who they are. And so she sat us down and she put in the tape for A Hard Day's Night. And the first like opening sequence, you see these, you know, well-dressed guys in suits running from a crowd of girls. And I was like, I don't know who the Beatles are. I don't know what they do. That's the job I want.
That's what I want.
That's what I want to do. So, you know, then I kind of became obsessed with like the Beatles, music, you know, just being a musician. Of course, I loved the sort of like the idea of like getting the attention from girls and stuff. But that's kind of when I started to become creative and learning about like songwriting and all that. So fast forward to like high school, I was in bands and in college. But really, it didn't really sort of solidify until after college. So I went to school at North Georgia. I got my degree in biology. And didn't really know, just like every, I think, well, I would say not every, the majority of folks that are 22, 23, graduating from college, they don't really necessarily have that deep down, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life feeling. And so that anxiety was kind of creeping in a little bit. So I, you know, decided I wanted to move to Texas. That's where my parents had moved back to. My brother was there, and go to Texas A&M just to continue something in biology, because you hear that all your life, like you got to go to college, you got to get a real job, you got to work, and then you know everything else kind of falls. So I moved out there, but right before I did, I met who's now my wife, this girl named Ann, who Luke, you know, from growing up in the same town. Mm-hmm. And man, I moved to Texas in College Station. I wasn't there, but just like a couple months, and I was like, this sucks. All my friends are my little brother's friends. I've got a college degree. I'm working at a bar, like bringing I'm not even a bartender. I'm like the bar back, you know, and I'm making nothing. I'm living in this apartment that had like one window. It was just awful.
Just like how you are now.
Yeah. And so anyways, like I decided to come back to Georgia. I secured a job like on the drive back. And a guy that I had, my band in college called Grove, played at the Holly actually with Weep and Cloud 10.
Right.
So I met Tyler back then, and we just hit it
so
off.
you stole Tyler when you guys played a show.
Yeah. So I met Tyler. We hit it off like immediately, and both of us were kind of like, man, our band, like the people in our bands at the time, sort of were just like frustrating us a little bit. But again, like most of it was just like, hey, man, cool. We had some friends. We played a couple shows together with them in Atlanta and stuff, and then we kind of went our separate ways. And I never kind of knew him. Well, come to find out, at the time, Ann's best friend was dating Tyler, and we just kind of like reunited, and we were like, man, we should write songs. We started writing songs, did the whole MySpace thing. We kind of created, just like you guys did, man. We created our own sort of buzz, man. We decided on what cities we want to go tour, and we would just start adding girls from those cities, sending them like free buttons or stickers and song.
Yeah, like adding them as friends, like on MySpace.
Yeah, on MySpace.
Was that just like the model for MySpace? Like, did y'all hear about it from other bands, or was that just something everyone kind of came to the conclusion, to do?
I think that if you had any sort of just natural marketing and or sense, really, as a musician, like Luke did, like I did, you knew that like this is a unique opportunity that older generations of musicians and bands just didn't have. We got to interact with complete strangers before we even made it to their town. And by doing that, we knew that we could like build relationships with them, get them like, oh, they felt like they knew us. Then when we come to town, no matter what, even if they didn't like our music, they're still going to come hang out, which,
and like we were making it up as we went, for sure, because it was like at the time, like nobody even understood social media yet. Like it wasn't a thing. So like I remember I first heard about it, we were playing a show at the Hard Rock, the Velvet Underground in Atlanta, So like we were already like playing shows and doing stuff. We didn't have the MySpace yet though. And this girl came up to me and she was like, hey, are you on MySpace? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And she was like, oh, you look like a MySpace kid, which I now know was an insult.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
You're like, what do you, is it the white belt, or
is it the like flock of seagulls haircut? I don't know. The backwards mullet. Maybe that was it. But so after that we like looked into it and we were like, oh wow, this is definitely, and it was so fast. Like you couldn't even do it. Like that's why it's so hard. You know how we get frustrated, Brad? It's like reaching people online is so hard now because it's so saturated. It wasn't like that then. The bands hadn't like abused it so much yet. So we were just reaching people like crazy. And before we knew it, we had 200,000 friends on MySpace. So it was like, what? And these were like real people, not just like bots and stuff. And they were like coming out to show. And it, sometimes it translated to them coming out to shows. Sometimes it didn't. But either way, it's like an online,
and like the more people you had following you, the more people listened to the music, which kind of like increased your ranking basically and discoverability. And it's just like, I mean, it's literally like what happens sort of like later on with every other social media outlet, so anyways, that helped to get us recognized by an indie label, and we toured the country, and they sent us out to LA to record an album and everything. And then in 2008, 2009, when the economy tanked, we were actually like on tour, man. We'd been gone for, I don't know, man, several months. And it was like, we were in the Northeast, it was freezing cold, it was wintertime. And needless to say, we're just like miserable anyway. But we got the call from the label that was like, hey guys, we just had a meeting with Sony, and looks like our funding is kind of cut for the time being from them. They're trying to figure out where our catalog is going to be going. We think it's going to be, purchased. Sorry, can you hear those like ding, the tone from a text? Okay, good.
No,
I can. So they basically said, hey, we don't know. We think it's going to be kind of bought up by this jazz label. And immediately we're like, oh. Oh, good. So you mean they'll have our best interest in mind? Cool. And so we, it was kind of up in the air. And then they're like, for the time being, like your tour support, which, a label will give you money while you're on tour to kind of like eat, live, it's like a little bit of an allowance, if you will. We're going to have to cut that off. And we were so miserable, dude. We played one show in like Cleveland, Ohio, where literally we played this venue that it was just clear that over time, the people that were working at the label started to just not work hard because they kind of knew this was about to happen, sort of thing. So we end up in this venue in Cleveland that the only other people there were the bar owner and like the other band, and the heat was broken. And we get in there and we're like, gosh, man, we know we're from the South, but what's happening here? And he's like, the heat broke, and we haven't had very many people here, so hopefully it'll be a good crowd tonight. I'm like, okay, cool, man. Well, we like per contract, we had guarantees at all the venues that we would play. So they were guaranteed to pay us X amount of money. All we had to do to basically fulfill our end of the obligation was show up and play for, I don't remember what the minimum was, but like 30 minutes. So knowing that, we went up on stage, we played our time, and we just got off stage. And I was like, all right, man, like, I hate that your heater's broken, but we're ready to go and we're ready to get paid and settle up. And he's like, oh, no, I can't, I can't pay you. And I'm like, oh, here's what's going to happen, sir. I am going to give you time to think about it. And you got a couple choices here. 1, pay us like the contract says. 2, collect the insurance money after I burn your venue to the ground, then pay us. So he opted for the first one and paid us, and we went on our way. So that had happened, and now we're on the phone with the label saying, hey, we're not going to give you any more money as support for now. We don't really know what's going to happen. We kind of talked it over as a band in the van, and we're like, we're going to cancel the rest of the leg. We're going home right now. So we just like drove all night long back to Georgia, and we're like, we'll kind of figure it out as we go. Well, that was just kind of like the start of the unraveling, all of us, wanted to be able to pay our own bills, and we were like getting a little bit older, and we just knew that, in a lot of ways we were just ready to I don't know, me personally, just not struggle so much to do something that we love so much, as sad as that sounds. But that led me to figure out a couple of things. And one was I got a job with North Georgia as a recruiting officer or whatever, an admissions recruiter, basically trying to recruit people to, instead of go to UGA where there's a football team, come to North Georgia where there isn't. So I loved that challenge because I loved going to that school, at the time. It's much, much different now. It's way bigger, and it's just a different university altogether. But during that time, I kind of figured out like, okay, part of the job was like data entry and stuff, but I would finish it quickly. I would, throw on some headphones, listen to music, do the data entry. And then I'd be like, man, I'm just sitting here getting paid to do nothing. And while that sounds awesome, for a creative mind, dude, it's like torture, right? So I started thinking of different ways that I could do different things. So one of them was making some like social media posts, videos and stuff for North Georgia. And then kind of understanding that there were people like,
were they already kind of aware of using social media, or you kind of ushered that in?
Zero, man. I tried to get them to create a new position, in fact, where I just basically was going to be the social media manager, specifically for the admissions office. But then like the web developer and stuff there at the time, like I'd have to like go to her office, and like it was just, I don't know how to explain it, man. It was very weird, and I clashed with them a lot. And not to mention I wasn't getting paid extra for it. So that was frustrating. So
there's
then
also there's a lot of red tape there, because being at a place like that, even for, we work with them a lot, but just to get videos approved or whatever, there's so many channels and so many people. I imagine even trying to do social media, you'd have to get approval on everything almost.
Dude, it was, and it was like slow moving, and it was just ultimately I figured out, like, hey man, I'm kind of just doing this now. It gives me great experience that I could use later, which I did, but it wasn't paying me anything more, and I just got fed up with it. So anyway, I then got recruited to go be basically a recruiter for physicians. And the way it was kind of pitched to me was like very sort of like boiler room / like Wolf of Wall Street style. You're gonna be calling these physicians, you're gonna be booking them jobs, you're gonna make a ton of money. And I'm like, yeah, man, that sounds awesome. I'm not making like enough to buy a bag of chips at North Georgia.
You're like,
right?
sell me this pin.
Yes, exactly. So I did that for like a few months. It was in a cubicle. Can you imagine any of you three sitting in a cubicle?
No,
Never. So it was soul sucking. Of course, my responsibilities at the time are a little bit different too. You know, I had like a basically less than a year old son, a house, you know, to pay for. It was like, I got to do something. But it sucked. It was terrible. The people there were awesome. I made some great friendships, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. And then, around that time, a mutual friend who knew Clayton, who owns our insurance agency, kind of said, hey, you know, Woody is miserable. You should talk to him. Because Clayton had just started this agency. I think he would be good at it. So Clayton talked to me, and just like I told you guys before, like initially I was kind of like, insurance, man. Like that was at the time my idea of like, dude, you gave up on your dreams and, you know, you just kind of cashed in, you've sold out basically. But what I kind of figured out over time, and was that like, if you're a creative person, there is a job for you to do whatever it is that you love to do, like with every company, as long as you can kind of like convince them that that's what they need. And
Yep.
you know, I think it's really cool. It's really cool that you guys are able to still do what you do, like be creative, put out original material and writing, and then also have like the sort of like the corporate commercial type side of it as well. Because that's like the ultimate dream. Like you guys figured out a way to just do it all while at the same time doing what you love to do. With music and stuff, you know, I guess I could approach like Chick-fil-A and be like, hey guys, I figured out a new jingle. You know?
Right.
But anyways, being creative, being someone that like, I'm always like very, very hungry for like knowledge and learning a new skill and learning new things and learning different ways to storytell, really. That's what I boiled it down to. I'm obsessed with like storytelling, and, that's kind of how I started to create content for our agency, and videos and vlogging and learning all that stuff has been a way for me to kind of utilize some of that creativity.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's like you said, we've figured out a way to sort of be able to do it all. But I mean, at the same time, I feel like my original dream was like yours. It was to be a musician, to play music and all that. And it's like I had to find, I guess it's like a compromise, but it's like still, it's something I love, and I still, and I still play music. I have other outlets, you know what I mean? Just like you can always do that. Yep. But I've found, I similarly, it's like I went back to school, even though it's like, no, I don't think you have to go to college or whatever to be a filmmaker or to be successful. But for me, it was just like I was super lost at the time and didn't have any kind of direction. And just being like in the world that I grew up in, and I started really young too, and I just had such a delusional mindset. I had no real life experience, and being an adult was like so far-fetched to me. I would have just had no idea where to even start, So going back to college was like that structure that I needed. Some people go into the military because they need that kind of structure. And obviously I wouldn't have made it a second in the Corps Cadets, but the academic side really, like, it set me on fire with like creativity, because I was in a fine arts program and everything. Obviously it's where I met Brad. We started the company and all that, but yeah, then we went on, we were able to find a way to sort of do what we love and still try to pay the bills at the same time.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you about the, like you did a video a day for a year. Like, what was that like? What did you learn from that? Because for me, I know like I said, right now we're doing a lot of videos for UNG. We're having to churn those out really fast because we're in a pandemic. They're trying to get information out as quickly as possible.
Yeah. We
don't have the time to do our normal like nitpick and all of us are extremely, and you're probably the same way, OCD. It has to be perfect. Sometimes it's like, we're intolerable because we're like, this isn't right,
Yeah.
So I imagine there was some freedom in knowing I got to get this out every day.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the case?
Yeah, man. So like I started to do that daily because I wanted to challenge myself for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to challenge myself. I knew that it would force me to, and I'd have to hold myself accountable to being creative every single day. To turn your day or a little bit of your day into a story was just a really, like, I don't know, attractive challenge to me. And then at the same time, I knew that there was kind of like this hype around video and content creation, even in the insurance world, but nobody had kind of done it like I had. I had a weekly Facebook show that I was doing at the time, and I wanted to essentially create a gap in like the amount of content if anybody else kind of wanted to jump on board in my industry. So I wanted there to be such a gap that no matter what, they'd never be able to catch up. And so far I've done that. So it's like they, you know, and I just wanted to, I knew that it was going to test my editing skills. Because like you said, man, like, man, I mean, like I would spend so much time on what others outside of like any kind of creative space would think was just absolutely ridiculous on just like the intro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I kind of found out too was like all the stuff that I spent so much time on that would be like super appealing to me, nobody noticed or cared about, you know?
Yep.
And so I think I had to find that there's like a little bit of a balance there because, you know, you want it to look amazing and you want it to have that high quality. So you got to find that balance between doing that and then sacrificing time with whatever else outside of, you know, this, whatever is in your life to kind of, you know, understand like, look, it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be extreme perfection. Not every single one of those videos that I made were going to be like the Steven Spielberg, you know, masterpieces or anything. So it forced me to be quicker at finding a story. It forced me to be quicker at just like the little things like just editing, you know, and cutting and being able to do that quicker. All the little things that you guys know, you know, within Final Cut and stuff like that.
So just developing that shorthand kind of.
Yes, that kind of thing. And then just being able to kind of trim the fat too, you know, like being able to really kind of figure out what you want to portray or show. And then the challenge of taking like 16 minutes worth of stuff after the first cut, you know, and trimming that down to like 2 minutes, you know. I would find like little different challenges within all that stuff that I think is super beneficial, you know, because now whenever I make a video, which, man, you know, I haven't really in a couple of weeks, just like you guys said before, I think we even started recording, haven't been using this time really to be extremely creative. I
mean, and that's the thing. I've heard this on so many podcasts, and they're like, you know, it's okay to just try to survive a pandemic. You don't necessarily have to write the great American novel or whatever during this time. And it's like, it's everyone's it's kind of like you're not necessarily in the greatest headspace to be creative. You know, I found that it's definitely hard to like sit down. And even when I've tried to sit down and write something down, like a journal.
Yeah. Have you been journaling? I know you said you were going to start doing that during this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've at first I was doing it like every day. I was like, I'm going to kind of keep a record of what's happening. And then it was like every few days. And then now I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to document the death tolls or whatever. So, you know, I like literally I'm putting in like kind of basic stuff of what's happening right now.
It's definitely easy to fall back into old habits that maybe it was something that you tried to kind of get out of, like, well, when the pandemic wasn't happening, but while we've been in it, it's really easy to just kind of fall back into your old routines. And I've noticed that.
Is this a confessional? Like,
no, but
something that you've fallen back into?
No, I've just been playing more games than I was.
Yeah. Ellis 2 months ago. Look, I think I'm done playing video games.
Okay, it was.
Year. And then
No.
He's like, hey man, I can't text y'all back. I'm playing video games.
No, Brad's totally skewing this. I was just like, I'm not playing as many games as I was, and I was trying to focus on other stuff. That doesn't mean I was playing zero, Brad.
I don't know. It sounded like he had given up, given it up, man.
Dude,
And then no.
It
it's hard to
sounded
be
cold turkey, man.
Yeah, man. Busted on camera here. It's hard to stay. It is hard to stay motivated, like, because it's been such a long amount of time of like just the same. Like I started off, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be able to like run every day. I'm going to be able to like finish my work way fast and then just create, man. I'll just make a bunch of videos now that I can use later, just even just like kind of stockpile some ideas with some stock footage and stuff that I can, use at a different time. I haven't done any of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but I have been spending time with like my kids, my wife, consuming a lot of like movies and stuff that I'd never seen before. Which, by the way, there's one that I just can't even believe it ever got made. And the special effects are so terrible for the time period that I thought, my God, I cannot believe this is so terrible. Have you ever seen, it's on Netflix, have you ever seen The Core?
No.
Really cool premise, man. They have to make a ship that drills into the center of the earth to jumpstart the earth somehow.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen
effects,
it, but
you have to watch just for how terrible the special effects are, man. It's appalling. I mean, literally, it's like the worst thing I've ever.
So, did it come out in 2003?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I just Googled it.
That's pretty late for terrible CGI.
Yeah, you'll see.
I don't know, man. A lot of early 2000 stuff had some pretty bad.
True, but like Return of the King came out, like, and that still holds up.
And then I put it up against like, okay, because Ann was similarly saying like, well, it's 2003, they didn't really have it. I'm like, wait a second, when did Armageddon come out, man?
That was late 90s, right? 98, 99-ish.
That looks pretty dang good.
Yeah. I mean, you can even compare it to like Jurassic Park, which is probably one of the best uses of CG ever. And that was 93 or 93.
And that's still
but Jurassic Park did not have to restart the Earth, Luke.
That's true.
That's true.
That's where all the budget went to.
They only had to restart evolution. But
there's this sequence in this movie, dude, where a space shuttle is returning back into Earth. And instead of like just like the heat that's coming on the cone of the front of the ship, there's like this weird you'll see it, man. First off, the shuttle looks like they cut and paste, and they're just like,
yeah.
And then like the stuff, the heat that's coming off of it, man, it's amazing.
I bet what it was.
They probably had one guy on his own, and they're like, oh, we need you to just take the ship and bring it into the center of the earth. And this guy's like, I don't know how to do that. And now he's like so proud of it. And then like, he's going to watch this podcast and be like, wow, okay.
See, I feel like it's the other way. It's like the CGI person or team. They're like, okay, they show a little animatic to the director. Like, this is kind of what it would look like. It's really basic. And they're like, okay, that's perfect. Let's throw it into the finished movie.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Woody, have you seen the, movies that made us, like documentary series?
I've seen some of it, like
it has
Home Alone,
Die Hard,
Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah, Ninja Turtles was the toys.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the movies that made us was so good. Oh my gosh, I love that series.
I'd start like watching it in the background while I was like working, basically, and then find that I was either not paying attention to what I was doing with work, and or not paying attention to that. So I just haven't sat down to just watch it. Yeah,
you should watch it because I think it'd be right up your alley. Like you would definitely like it. But like what Brad was just saying was the type of stuff that was happening with Ghostbusters. Right. They would make, and this is like they're having to shoot these visual effects like basically practically. They're shooting elements and then compositing them, and they would be like, "This is sort of what we're thinking." He's like, "Perfect, put it in there," and he's like, "Whoa." No. And he's like, no, it's good. We got to keep going because they had like no budget, no time. They're writing the movie as they went. And that happened to so many. I mean, like we saw that on Die Hard. They were like a few days ahead with the writing of the scenes they were shooting. And I was like, how do you even know where you're at in the movie? How do you plan production or scheduling?
Make it up as you go.
It would be so stressful and so hard.
Yeah.
Did they Die Hard in sequence then, if that was the case? Or?
Yeah, they shot it in order.
So, yeah.
And that's why there's literally like a big, huge errors, like the fact that there's later in the movie, they decide there's a van or whatever inside the truck. And earlier on, you see that truck. There's no one in there, And when they noticed it, they were just like, it's been
Can't do anything about it.
They were like 2 hours has passed. No one's going to remember
forget.
that. And that was it. That they were just like, whatever. And I was like, dude, that's gangster. I want that kind of freedom. Just be like, whatever. People won't notice.
Yeah.
Put the movie
Have
out.
you guys ever shot in sequence?
I don't think so.
I mean, there's really no. I mean, is there a benefit to that? I guess other than like,
maybe for the actors.
If you're making Boyhood and it takes 12 years.
Yeah. There you go.
Sure.
Maybe for the actors because they stay in the same headspace they were at yesterday and they build on that.
Yeah.
But like for us, like on the production side, it would just be terrible because you're like, if say we're shooting a scene here in my living room and then we got to be back here at the end of the movie, we just like such a huge waste to come back days later and set everything back up again when we could have just gotten those two scenes, on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think is the future? I know it's hard to say, but like for, production, man. I mean, like it's got to be
with
tough.
the pandemic.
Yeah, man. I mean, like with we're getting pretty close here. If this lasts any longer, everyone's gonna be kind of running out of TV shows, and I mean, on that level, but like movies too. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of stuff is already filmed and just waiting to be released, like James Bond, Top Gun's coming up.
But even then they pushed all that back to like November.
Exactly. So it's like any new stuff. I mean, I don't know. It seems like
I was reading online that AMC is getting pretty close to filing for bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they're. I think they said that they had enough cash to stay afloat for like another month-ish, like a couple weeks to a month. But they're really close to filing for bankruptcy.
All that popcorn sales just keep
I know,
at least
going
a month
the
ahead.
Man, that's crazy.
But honestly, they'd probably bounce back, right? And then they'd probably do something different, if I had to guess, like streaming movies directly to like your home or something.
I think they were trying, like, from what I read with their bankruptcy, they're restructuring so they don't, completely go under. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like for the productions, like, I know they were filming the new Batman movie, and that like got maybe a third of the way done in filming. So it's like, they might not pick back up until, maybe October or September, something like that. So then you're like, okay, the continuity changes, or
you emerge from the cocoon of hibernation and come out looking like Thor did in
Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's gained 50 pounds, and they're like, all right,
Rob, you might want to hit the treadmill, man, before we can.
Who was it? Colin Farrell actually is in that movie, and he gained a bunch of weight to play, I think, the Penguin or something.
So he's got to keep it on?
So he's keeping it on.
That's
I wish I had an excuse like that.
I know, right?
But what I had read online that I didn't even think about was, like, with movies like that, exterior shots, you're filming in the spring, the trees, the grass, everything like that looks so much different than when you'll probably pick back up in the fall or winter. So then it's like, well, how do you do that? Do you have like a time jump in like the riding? I wonder how much is going to be, people are riding to change the ending to accommodate it a little bit better, or if they're like, no, let's just keep it and then either fix it in color or
CGI
in some way. Yeah.
CGI all the grass.
Every city sequence right now. I mean, anybody that's got a apocalyptic movie right now,
cashing in, dude.
Man. I mean, they can just like go out there with a few like awesome drones and just get all of the footage they need, man.
Well, think about this, like, what's the movie, Vanilla Sky, the scene with Tom Cruise in Times Square. I think I remember reading how much, it was like in the millions of how much money they spent just to film that one scene to clear out Times Square for how many hours, who knows. But like, if Cameron Crowe waited 20 years to make that movie, he would have been able to do it so much cheaper. And Tom Cruise practically looks the same. So
that's true. He hasn't aged at all. I wonder what Tom Cruise is doing right. Dude, we talk about Tom Cruise every episode.
See, I wanted to bring it up because Woody, the last episode of your podcast, y'all were talking about Tom Cruise. So.
Yeah, man.
Dude,
Yeah.
he permeates our subconscious
Dude,
constantly.
he's in some of the best movies ever, though, man. Like, he's just gotten.
He's a great actor, you know.
Yeah.
He may be crazy.
What's the best Tom Cruise role or movie to you?
I don't know, man. There's some good ones, dude. I mean, I love the War of the Worlds that he was in.
Yeah,
that's a good
Minority
Oblivion,
Report.
Minority Report, Oblivion, Top Gun, of course. Heck, man, go back far and away. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
This land is mine. Well, don't even worry about it. I just did the best scene there.
Don't watch him.
I like him in Magnolia, man.
Yeah. Dude, he was so good in that. What about Rain Man? That's a good.
Oh yeah.
And that's more of like, I don't know if it's him, but it's the
chemistry with him and Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, playing
a really good driver.
Tapioca pudding. Tapioca.
Now, have you guys seen any movies like during this time that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is one of the most underrated movies, or like, man, this is one of the most overrated movies?
See, I feel like I haven't watched a ton of movies. I saw Onward last night. That was really good.
I loved Onward.
Yeah, that was awesome. But I've been watching a lot of TV. I've been catching up on that.
It's been a lot of TV.
What?
Well, Brad, I've been telling you about Atlanta. We've been texting a lot. I've been watching Atlanta. That show's brilliant.
Really?
Yeah,
I've always heard about it, but I've never given it a chance.
See, I watched it when it was live on TV, so it's been a while. So Luke's like bringing back all these memories, and I'm like, man, I want to watch it. Sozo, she was like staring.
She made the jump.
Bears over here sleeping on my bed.
Yeah, but Atlanta is so well done. Like, even if you're not into like hip hop or the rap culture or anything like that, you don't have to know anything going in, because it's really not so much about that. It's really more about these cousins, their relationship, the family dynamic, and then like a lot of it is more about society, racism, culture, you know, yeah, Donald Glover is. I just think he's like such a great actor, but probably just a genius too. Like the stuff they do is so far out. They do these really crazy ideas. Here's the concept, and I was texting Brad what I kind of like.
Yeah,
figured out.
Blew my mind when you did it, because it's like you figured it out.
I figured out the formula they're using is basically they pick something that's like really basic, like really easy, should be easily accomplished, and they make the whole episode about it where it's almost impossible. So it's either he can't find his jacket from the party the night before, he's going around everywhere trying to find this jacket, you know, or it's like he's trying to break $100 bill. Nobody will break this $100 bill for him, you know? And it's like the whole episode is geared around that. And then I compared it to like when you're in a dream and you're trying to punch someone, but you can't do it. That's how the episode feels. It's almost really frustrating. Like Carrie gets like really anxious watching it. She's like, why do you watch this show? Because they just can't ever get their goal accomplished.
Yeah.
But it draws you in. It's really entertaining.
That's awesome, man. Like a lot of that type of, I find that, you know, like in a different way and probably like less cool, you know, Ben Stiller in all his movies that has that same sort of thing. Like there's always something going wrong, you know, that he just can't quite accomplish whatever. And sometimes like it's too much for him, man. I'm just like, I just can't. Or, you know, it's almost like a Curb Your Enthusiasm too, you know?
Yeah, or Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley,
man.
I started watching. Have you started watching Barry?
I just finished season 1.
Oh, really? I've only watched like maybe 4 or 5 episodes, dude.
Me
Amazing,
too.
Man. So good.
I like it a lot. Yeah. I love, I was just thinking, what's his name? The guy who plays the teacher, Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
He's like probably one of the best comedic actors. Yeah. Like just that type that he plays, because he plays a similar role in Arrested Development.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's mind-blowing that he was so well known as the Fonz for like such a long time, but now he's like developed into a completely different archetype, different character, and he's just kind of pathetic but likable, but like kind of a loser at the same time, and it's just such a funny dynamic. Him and the head detective, their whole chemistry is pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I posted about a show the other day. I didn't know it was going to be such a hot take, but like several people were like, "That show sucks," but I loved it. And Brad, I think you liked it a lot too. The show's called Devs. Have you heard of this, Woody?
It's on
DEVS.
Hulu.
Yeah, Hulu Devs. Same. The creator of it is the director from Ex Machina and Annihilation. Wasn't it Alex Garland? Is that his name?
Yeah, he wrote. He did a lot of Danny Boyle movies too, like writing The Beach and Sunshine. I think.
Yeah, I didn't realize he wrote like The Beach as a novel.
Did he write 28 Days Later too?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen all of this.
I know he's great, dude. And like, so Devs it's got Nick Offerman in a serious role, which is awesome, man. You know, like Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, he doesn't have even like funny parts, but he's just he emotes really well on this show. I can't even describe the show to you, dude. I don't know. It's a sci-fi and it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
You really need to go into it without even knowing much about
check it out, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much, because I've been talking to a lot of friends, you know, like listener and fan and friend of mine, Alex Vaughn.
Our number one fan, dude.
He was texting me about it. I think he saw your post, Luke, and he was like, "Are you a fan of this too, or something?" And he's like, "I can't stand this show," and I didn't realize so many people like didn't like it. I don't know.
My cousin.
He
commented on it and he was like, "It's okay," and then he compared her acting to being like a female Keanu Reeves, which was pretty funny. But like,
that's like the two main insults I feel like is the main character's acting and then the pace. It's slow, but it's intentional.
Yeah. And I like compared it to like it like pulls you in, like it lulls you into this, like it's really meditative feeling. There's a lot of sound design and the score that has just this like ringing tones.
Like Sunshine, you know, I mean, that's like I loved that movie because of the soundtrack, man. And even just like the I don't know, man, it was good. So
Sunshine was a cool movie. That was that Danny Boyle?
Yeah, that was Danny Boyle, but Alex Garland wrote it. Yeah,
so he wrote it. Yeah,
yeah,
cool. Yeah, man, he's good. Have you seen Ex Machina?
Oh yeah, dude, I loved it, man.
So good.
It's intense.
Yeah,
that's like,
I mean, that's kind of his style.
Yeah.
Dude, every time if you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience, he says he loves that movie. Like every few episodes, he brings up Ex Machina.
Yeah. Dude, it's so good, man. And that's another one of my favorite actors is both of those guys. What's his name, man?
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac, and then the other guy, Donald Gleason.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Wait,
he's really good.
The dude that plays the guy and that comes to his house.
Yeah, the dude who plays the guy.
Yeah. The dude who
playing another guy.
Yeah, man, he's good.
Is that his name?
Have you seen that movie, Ellis?
Yeah, I've seen Ex Machina.
Nah, he's never seen any movies, dude.
No, dude, I've seen that movie.
No, don't even ask him, dude.
Have you seen Annihilation?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
that's on Hulu too, I think.
Yeah,
the end of that movie's crazy.
I really need to sign up for a Hulu account because apparently all the coolest stuff.
All right, dude. It's been over this.
It's tied to your Spotify account.
You have a Hulu
got it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Just log in.
Or
but
Disney
the
Plus.
ads though. But the ads.
Yeah, the ads are annoying sometimes, but.
Well, if you see good RX ads every 5 minutes, it just
it's the same ads every time.
Dude, the ads are what turned me off from Hulu, dude. That's why I just haven't signed up for it.
That was like when we were trying to watch Rick and Morty. You know,
we're taking a break. So annoying.
The same commercial why? Why can't they rotate them?
Yes. Okay, I have something to bring up. So I've been hanging out with my parents, and we've been watching the local news, and like. I just forgot how bad local like commercials are. You know?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like,
dude, there's this one that was on there. I was watching it too, and it's this like Charles and Schwab or something like that. But like there's like this girl talking in front of a white screen, and she's just completely blue. Like they just like put like a completely blue grade over her. And I was like, but why? It's like everything's just completely blue. Her skin's completely like this purplish blue. Her hair is like this like goldish blue. And I don't know why they did that. It was so dumb.
So with y'all, Woody, at the Rhodes Group, was that like a conscious effort where you're like, we don't want to fall into like the kind of local commercial style with social media, what you do for Ask Woody Wednesday, what we've made with you guys? Or was it kind of like every other big insurance agent kind of has those creative commercials? So like, if we want to be elevated to that level, we need to up our game in that regard.
Yeah. Like, why didn't you guys do, hey, ask for Wolfman?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
call Dawn.
And ask for Donna. I think mainly because that's just not my personality, really. I think that kind of stuff worked, rest in peace, the Wolfman. But for us, like, I just don't think it's not who I am, right? So it wouldn't be authentic enough. Mm-hmm. Plus, I know that like a lot of those commercials that we see, it's just so funny to me, man. Like, they're paying so much money for that time period, that space on TV, that they don't have enough budget to pay for like a really good, high quality, or they don't think they have the budget for it. And so they're probably, some of them, like Charles and Schwab, whoever that is, and whatever they do, they probably filmed that like 5 years ago, and they're just like using it. Hey, put it in that slot. Yeah. They don't really. Some businesses, I think, make enough money without that kind of stuff. They don't see the value in it. And so that's their argument. I think, again, like through this time, man, a lot of things are going to change. And hopefully for businesses, they'll kind of understand. Now, in terms of like the insurance industry, it's kind of nice because there's not really a whole lot of competition, because anything that you see on TV or anything that you see that's an insurance commercial that's, just high quality and not just like green screen with blue gradient, is big, humongous insurance carriers.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you're not seeing like Fred Williams, the State Farm agent, is highly produced commercial, because he doesn't do that. But State Farm, who has, they spend billions of dollars on advertising, they're the ones that spend that.
Can I also, the one thing we may not realize is that those people, they're putting out these terrible commercials, but I bet a lot of them paid a ton of money for them, because there's so many companies out there that they don't necessarily do what we do. They do a different type of like videography or whatever, but they charge like thousands of dollars, and they're filming with like a camcorder type thing, whatever. And it's just because maybe it is a smaller town, whatever, but the people are hiring them and they don't know any different. So they're hiring someone and they're still paying a ton of money. And they just don't realize there's companies out there that could make them something that looks closer to that State Farm commercial.
And I think that's something that you guys have that, I think there's like a couple different things. I think one, internally for like our agency, I think it helps that there's someone creative in the agency. I don't think that's super common. So that like when it comes down to like the writing table, we can bounce ideas back and forth and kind of come up with like a good marriage of ideas. Whereas like a lot of times people, especially in the insurance industry or whatever, but any company really, will just meet with the videographer and they just say, okay, man, we need a commercial. And they say, okay, no problem. What do you want us to do? And, the business owner's like, I don't know, And so they just kind of like make something and that's it, There's no, I don't know, man. I think
like what you're saying makes sense, because for just working with you guys, I mean, we sat down probably, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times, like where we've sat down in person and just hashed out ideas, and then threw away a bunch of ideas. And then, we'd bring up something, we'd be like, it's a cool, it may be a crazy idea. We still throw it out there. That's such an important part of the creative process that people don't realize, is that if you shut someone down, you're killing the creative process, the creative vibe, because they may throw out a crazy idea that we could never, ever do, but that might give you the good idea. You know what I mean? I might say something like, all right, here's a crazy idea. And then Brad's like, that doesn't make sense. Well, we probably couldn't actually do that, but what if we did this, or vice versa,
Yeah. And also it's like not getting married to a certain idea. So like when you're working together, in a group or, just with one other person, any type of creative setting like that, I think, don't think, okay, what I'm going to pitch is what we're going to do because obviously I have the best idea, you know,
Right,
because
yeah.
someone can improve on it, or like Luke said, it's like maybe that idea isn't it, but it'll be the genesis of the better idea, or
Right.
that idea then leads to another idea, and then it just jumps back
Yeah.
and forth.
It's got to be hard for y'all too, because I think like sometimes, well, even like, yeah, I don't know, like graphic designers and stuff. I remember like Tyler was telling me one time about this, like, I don't know if it was like a landscaping company or something. They're like, hey man, we want you to design us a logo. Right. And so the problem becomes like that person has so much emotionally kind of attached to that company that it's hard for them to take on new creative ideas. And so then the creative ends up having to just be like an order taker almost. And then they deliver a product that's like not really what their vision is. And it's not really the quality they want. And ultimately they just want to get this person off the plate.
Yeah.
And so like, it is kind of a hard balance, from like, you know, making money, but then also like firing a client that's just not a good fit, you know?
You have to also be part of our job is, you know, guiding that client and trying to give them the best advice we can, because they sometimes people don't know what's best for them, or they can't get out of their own way, or what, you know what I mean?
Or they might not even know how to express it too, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I think that's one thing that I've discovered. It's like when I would do like these little, we did like 3 or 4 videos where we highlighted some local businesses that I, you know, filmed and did or whatever. And the first thing I would do when I sat down and talked to them is like, I'd be like, you know, like, we think you have an awesome Christmas tree farm, but, you know, what's your story? And it takes a long time to like pull that out of people in a way.
Yeah.
And so, being able to kind of listen to the whole story and then create like a narrative out of it, I think is a super important piece. And then just like, I don't know that businesses understand the value in letting people know their story, you know, like no one, like, think about how many dang insurance agencies there are, you know, or how many insurance agents. Like my whole thing was I wanted people to know me and be able to connect with me on a level that they can't necessarily with any other agent, because they can kind of get a peek into who I am and you know, what I do kind of.
And that's such a major aspect of being an insurance agent is you're the face of, you know, like what you do. Everyone needs to kind of be like, oh yeah, you know, Woody's my guy, and I know Woody because he's really been open and honest. So like, I'm going to believe, you know, that he has my best interests as well.
Right. And I think like that's where like my sort of obsession and things that I love to do is just like kind of pull that story out of people so that I can tell their story, even if they don't know how to tell their story. You know what I mean? Like, I love that, man. So it's very cool that you guys are able to do that, you know? Because I think a lot of times people they just don't know how to express what they ultimately kind of want. And so you have to be able to do that for them, you know?
Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, I think we're almost gone in an hour here. Before we wrap it up, have you given any thought to what your WWE wrestler name would be?
Yeah, it would just be no.
Because we've been thinking about it. I was the caveman. Brad was cue ball.
I'm soft serve.
No, that's Big Baby.
No, it's
that's
soft
Big
serve.
Baby.
His name's Big Baby.
It's soft serve.
We decided it was Big Baby, but
you decide, Woody. What do you think better fits Alice?
Big Baby or soft serve?
I don't know if Woody knows me well enough to.
I don't know.
That's why it's a perfect.
Exactly. We need to know what the public would want you to be.
Well, what if you have to describe the costumes to me? Like, does Big Baby come out like a
Big
diaper?
Baby is just a diaper.
You know the Scoops Ahoy outfit from Stranger Things. That's
that's
Stranger
Things. He's wearing a Hawkins High School hat.
That's a cool hat.
Thank you, sir. I mean, the soft serve would definitely be the cooler outfit. Big Baby would be.
What about for comedy?
Oh yeah, Big Baby all the way.
There you go. We're going for
That would be hilarious.
We're going for a comedic wrestling show.
I would be El Scorcho.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one question, Woody, before
Yeah.
we get off. What has been, we filmed with you a few times now, for Road Scoop commercials, your docu promo, and then also, in our latest episode of Encounters, what's been the craziest situation you feel like we've put you in on set?
Dude, 100% when we did the docu promo and I was swimming, it was, I don't even know, 38 degrees
it was
outside.
cold.
It had to be 38 degrees. I'm in a lake. And to be honest with you, the lake was actually warmer than the air temperature. So like while I was swimming, it felt great. Getting out, and even before like that was.
You're also in like what the
like a
Iron
triathlon
Man,
outfit, which
triathlon.
is basically just like full body spandex, which
running on rocks
running
too.
barefoot on rocks for the scene where I just like run full powered into this lake, and like I had thought surely there's just going to be like mud, like most lakes. There's going to be mud that leads into the water, so I just go like 110%. My feet are just like, imagine glass bottles sticking up from the ground and your bare feet just, and I'm just like, but I'm so committed. I don't know if there's anything that has sold me in being in any future role, it's my commitment.
Yeah, dude.
It's my commitment.
He is committed.
Because I didn't slow down, bro. Okay?
No, you didn't.
I love to, like, you had to like swim across the lake, and we're like trying to get a drone shot of you.
Mm-hmm. You're like, you're doing.
Yeah, you're like, all right, take your time, guys. I think the hardest part about when we're filming is remembering that you're filming a human, because sometimes we'll be like, all right, let's one more time, and people are like, I literally can't feel my fingers. What are we doing here?
Yeah, man, I had a blast on set for the Encounters episode, man. I'm pretty sure my character should be the featured role for a future episode. I got several ideas.
Hector the hero, right?
Hector the hero. One of them being that Hector doesn't know. Well, I don't know if you want to release this so you can cut this part out, but Hector doesn't know that he's actually been planted on the planet as a protector for the human species by his species that's, several light years away. And then ultimately, like, Hector, like, kind of figures it out. There's this big sort of heroic thing. There may just, I don't know if you want to call, Natalie Portman in, whatever. And then, there's like a love story. There's a battle scene, and I saved the world.
I love it. We're going to expand the universe for Encounters.
Yeah. When you said, when we were talking about not riding during this time, I think that has now changed drastically. Right when we get off this call, me and Luke are going to just be pen to paper.
It's time.
I don't want to pressure you, but I'm just saying this would probably be the episode that launches. This is the one that gets it sold to Netflix. I'm just saying.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, man. Thanks, Woody.
Right,
thanks
guys.
so much for
man.
coming
Thanks
on.
for having me on.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, man.
Stay safe out there.
See you guys next time.
Dude.
See you next time.
See ya.